Hey everybody. So today I am sitting here with my dear friend Anita Stewart, and she and I are going to be talking about depression. So she and I are working on a book together for her, and I'm incredibly excited about it. And this is some of the writings that will be in her book. And when I saw what her writings were this time, I said, oh my gosh, we have got to do a video on this because there's someone out here that needs this. So this is Anita Stewart.
Good morning.
And I am going to let Anita give you a little bit of background about who she is. But I will tell you, she is absolutely one of my best friends in the whole wide world. She is that friend that doesn't mind if you come over and you're still in need of a pedicure, or if you haven't had your bikini waxed, or whatever, you can just be yourself with Anita. And I so love that about her, and I so appreciate that about her. So, Anita, I want you to talk just a little bit about your background and who you are.
Okay. First, thank you. You're so complimentary, and much more gracious than I deserve, and I feel the very same way about you.
It's a good thing that you do, because I'm a hot mess sometimes.
Well, we all are, and I think it's what makes us credible to people is when we can be honest and real about our life and who we are.
Absolutely.
Talking about depression, I'm 56 years old, and I have a very vivid memory I can remember when I was 3. So I have a lot of memories, and one of the things that I realized a few years ago was that for the first time in my life, I was beginning to be happy and to enjoy my life, because for most of my life, and when I say most, I mean 3-4 decades, I was just an unhappy person. I felt like my life was unnecessary. I felt like it was a lot of trouble. And had I been given the choice as to whether to come here and live this life or not, I would have said, I'll pass.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible way to feel about the gift of life.
Yes.
But that's my truth. And I wasn't mad about it. I just wasn't impressed with it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my being here was other people's decisions that didn't turn out so well for them, by the way. So maybe that has something to do, with it.
Sure.
And I wasn't feeling it. I really wasn't feeling it. And I was raised Pentecostal. And so I came from a church family, and I was in church all the time, and had a very healthy fear of the Lord. And again, not just about that particular religion by any means, but my take on it, my experience with it was that there was a lot of judgment and condemnation.
Sure.
And, how are you ever going to be good enough?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have been down that path myself, so I understand completely.
And so, you get into those teenage years where you experience the angst of growing older, and kind of pulled away from the church and went out in the world, and sowed my oats, went up and down Fool's Hill a time or two, made some of my own mistakes, but realized that overall I was just putting the time in.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I had a purpose to fulfill. I mean, I loved my children, and I was a good mother. It wasn't the life I thought I was going to have in high school.
Sure.
My career path that I envisioned for myself wasn't manifesting. But I didn't have it by any means as hard as some do, as most do. I was just unhappy.
Sure.
I was very unhappy. And I didn't even realize that about myself.
Well, I think that you'll probably agree with me when I say that most people, they may not be unhappy, but they're not happy. They're just kind of existing. And I think that we are living, especially right now, we are living in a world where everybody's just trying to get through to the next day and then to the next day. And I think not only coping with those feelings of I'm just existing or unhappiness, but learning how to take that journey of joy was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to talk to you, because even in the short time that we've known each other for about a year or so now, I have even seen changes in you over the last year, just your journey of, you know what, I'm done with all of that negativity, all that depression, all of that sad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to figure out,
You have to do the work.
it's exactly
You
right.
really have to do the work. And my first marriage was unsuccessful, other than I have two wonderful boys and now grandchildren. And so God has a plan for us, even in our mistakes. We get off the path, and He directs us back on, because He has a plan for us, a plan to prosper us
Sure.
and not to harm us. And then I found my husband now, and we've been together almost 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And he's such a blessing. I celebrate his birthday because it was the day God gave me the best gift.
That's awesome.
And I always...
Don't you start doing that. You'll have me over here crying. I cry almost every time we have a deep conversation. I'm not doing that today.
You will. You're about to.
I know, stop.
My grandma and my granddaddy, I think their prayers are what preserved me.
Sure.
There were a lot of roads I could have taken that I didn't. And there are a lot of roads I did take that should have took me somewhere really bad, and it didn't.
Sure.
And so I know for a fact my grandma walked the floors and held the Bible for me.
Sure.
And my granddaddy was the closest thing I had really ever had to a father. And he was the one person in my life that I didn't want to disappoint. So just that, kept me on this side of, taking a bad turn a time or two. Because when you're not happy and you don't really have joy in your life, you
don't have much to lose, so
you
why not?
don't.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very easily influenced. And I see that in young people today. And I just thank God that I have godly grandparents. But one of the things that I had asked the Lord for after my first marriage didn't work out was that I wanted a man who loved me like my granddaddy loved my grandma.
I love that.
And I have that.
I'm jealous.
Well, I have that, and so I want to, cross your fingers when you don't want to forget something, because I want to revisit that later. But recognizing that God's promises are real, and that He truly does want to give us the desires of our heart, was one of the things that shifted in my life and kind of turned things back around for me, because you can be angry as long as you choose to be.
Sure, absolutely.
And, you can feel put upon, or things didn't go the way that you wanted them to. And we all have, too many to count, areas of disappointment in our life, in ourselves, in other people. But if we don't take time to have the joy,
yep,
it's the joy of the Lord. And doing my personal meditations and doing my personal prayer regime, one day I came across the passage that says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. So think about that for a minute. The joy of the Lord is your strength. So if the enemy is going to attack you, where's it going to be? He wants you weak, so he's going to steal your joy.
Sure.
If
absolutely.
you let them.
Sure.
If you let him. And Satan, he's real, and he knows all of our little tender spots. And he knows all of the areas in our life that, are trigger points for us.
Sure.
And that's where he comes at us at.
Sure.
And I would say that there's probably less than a handful of people in my life who ever knew how extremely unhappy I was.
Sure.
Because I had to put on the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became the jokester, and I was the fixer, and I was the leader, and I was the life of the party. And everybody always thought I was funny and witty, and I hid all my personal pain behind that. So what I've realized is I have lived with masked depression.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to acknowledge it to heal from it.
Sure.
You do have to acknowledge it to heal from it. And so I think having this unconditional love that I had saw in my grandma and my granddaddy,
mm-hmm.
and having that in my life now, a really good man,
mm-hmm.
and not who made life livable for me, because
Sure.
I could do that for myself.
Yeah.
But who was added value,
mm-hmm.
a compliment,
Sure.
to my life. I like to say I had the cake, but he's my icing.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's one of the things that everybody is going to love about your book is all the Anita-isms. And that was, you just saw a glimpse of an Anita-ism, and this book is going to be phenomenal. I can't wait until we get it finished and all put together and ready to share with the world. Let me ask you, if you had to sum up what is depression, can you just say, what is depression? Let's talk about what it actually is.
Okay. So the epiphany I had where I sent you some of my writing that's going to make my book, it was about disappointment in life. And it was about, how tired that we allow ourselves to become.
Sure.
If we just sit and play in the mud, And a friend of mine had posted something on Facebook.
Yeah.
And she's a new mother. And I remember that so well. I've got that great memory.
Yes.
So while I'm 56, I remember those sleepless days and those long nights and those crying babies and teething babies. And something about her post just drew my heart. And she started it off by saying depression is the devil. And it just struck a chord with me. And I went back and changed that title in for that piece of my book to Depression is the Devil, because that's what depression is.
Gotcha. I love that that's how you refer to it. That is a good way to say, you know what, I got to get the hell away from this.
Depression is the devil, because God does not speak to us in that language.
Thank you. Well, that is one of the biggest things that I find in certain areas is that people think that God is condemning them for every little thing that they do, every little thing that they don't do. And that's not what God is. God is love. And God wants to, carry us along and help us through our journey, not condemn us and point a finger at us, a judgmental finger at us and say, no, you're never going to make it into heaven because you didn't such and such, or you did such and such. That's not what God is.
No,
So,
and maybe you've done nothing at all. I feel like I probably had some inner feelings about myself based on how I came into the world.
sure,
The situation itself.
sure.
I was a product of someone's poor judgment. But that didn't matter. I thought it did. I thought it made me less than. And then I have some traits that make me not everyone's cup of tea. I'm opinionated. Imagine that.
You?
And
I would have never thought you were opinionated.
And outspoken, have things to say, people. But God made me that way.
Absolutely.
He made me that way. And I've always wanted to embrace the truth of things. Even if it makes me look bad.
Sure.
I want the truth. I've always valued the truth. And the truth of the matter was, anything I could control would navigate my life, the value of my life now that I'm an adult. Nothing about the past that I was hanging on to or, kicking and screaming about in my mind, it was going to change.
Yeah.
But what can change is, can I get outside my head and quit listening to the whispers of the enemy and start hanging on to the promises of God and get away from that whole legalistic, religious mindset that I had floating around my brain all those years and have a relationship with the Father. And when I'm really talking to Him about my problems and not everybody else.
Sure.
And when I'm laying them at His feet and looking for His answers, really looking for His answers, I'm going to have them.
Sure.
They might not be what I want to hear, but that's part of the healing process. Stinking thinking.
Sure.
I was guilty of that. Now, I could encourage the world and did. Oh, I was an avenger.
Yes.
I've always attracted the broken and the wounded and the lonely a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not one of the lonely ones, by the way. I did not fall in that category.
But, God gave me a gift to love on people.
Sure.
And I wasn't using it to love myself.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beginning. And I'm not trying to diminish depression. I know there's different degrees of depression. I know it's clinical. It can be neurological. And I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV.
Sure.
Come to think of it, I don't think I even watch one on TV. These are just my feelings about me.
Sure.
And where I was going through. But I was listening to the wrong voice. Because if it's negative, it's not God.
That's right.
If it's demeaning or diminishing, it's not God. If it's negative or condemning, not convicting, could be God.
Sure.
But He chastises us with love, even. So if there's something going on in your head that makes you feel like you're worthless or a waste or you have no purpose, that's the wrong voice to be listening to.
Sure.
And when you start really looking to hear from God and opening your mind up to hear from God and opening your eyes up to see God, you get to the point where that's really all you see.
Yes.
And God wants us to have a heart like His. And when we do have a heart like His, He's going to give us the desires of our heart because it's what He planned for us all along. And His gifts are so much better than anything that we could do for ourselves or imagine for ourselves.
Sure.
And, I know this is a real kind of a round the road talk about depression, but I don't think that you can talk about depression productively unless you talk about the root cause.
Sure.
And I think the root cause is the enemy.
Sure.
Capitalizing on our human insecurities because we are human.
Sure.
This side of glory, we're human, we're flawed. Not knowing the voice of God. Going through religious, rituals is not the same thing as walking with the Father.
That's right.
And, talking to God about, I'm unhappy here and I don't know why I'm unhappy here. And if there's not a lesson for me in this, if you're not trying to season me for something you have for me, if this is just the enemy playing havoc in my head, take this from me. I don't want it.
Sure.
And if it's a lesson, Lord, can I learn it quick? Because this is exhausting. And depression is exhausting.
Yeah, it was the other day, we had like a whole dramatic thing go on at my house. And so I'm driving down the road in the middle of the night after we dealt with this entire episode. And I said, God, listen here now. We've had enough in 2020.
Yes, we have.
And I'm pretty sure there was some lessons I needed to get here. And I'm pretty sure I've gotten them. Just make it clear which ones they were. And can we just move on from this? I've had enough.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think this is just our quagmire.
I know.
And that's going to take me to social media. I think another source of depression is that we release all our feelings and we get all our angst and our complainings and grumblings out online to people that we don't even know like they care.
Yeah. And
then we measure ourselves and our lives by the fantasy that everybody projects out there about their own.
Sure.
And never before in history have we had the ability to be all up in somebody else's business like this.
I know, it's awful.
And have everybody up in ours. And we have these conflicted opinions about everything. I've really been trying to work on, you've heard of the industrial age, the iron age, the stone age. This is an age, and I think it's the age of being offended.
Yes. We are all offended. Everywhere we go, everything we do, something offends us. And I'm like, when did we become such a society that people couldn't have an opinion? And it's just like, cool, that's how that person feels about that.
Well, and why am I so important to people who don't even know me that they care what I think?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. And I say that tongue in cheek because I'm writing a book and I hope they care what I think. But I don't care that they agree with me or not.
Sure.
In fact, I've talked about this. One of the prologues of my book is going to be that, it was my truth when I wrote it.
Sure.
I may have evolved past some of it. Let's hope I have. I hope
sure.
I evolved. But it was my truth when I wrote it, and I'm sure it's somebody else's truth now. And you don't have to agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope it makes you laugh or makes you think or makes you mad, makes you feel something.
Sure.
Because I think that we anesthetize ourselves.
Yes.
We don't deal with our feelings because we use these outlets that aren't productive for us. We're talking to the world, people we don't even know, but we're not talking to Jesus.
Yep.
And we're holding ourselves up against unrealistic expectations because the people that we admire and want to be like, that's not who they are either.
That's right. And it's not who God intended for us to be.
No.
And I think, one of our biggest journeys in life needs to be discovering who God intended us to be, and who He created you to be, because He created each of us for a purpose. And if we're constantly looking to somebody else's life online and going after whatever they have, or idealizing their life, then we're never going to be what God fully intended us to be. So,
His word says that we're uniquely and wonderfully made.
I am. I so am. It took me a while to figure that out,
Well,
but I
we
figured
all
out,
are.
like, you know what? God's not surprised that I'm behaving this way. He's not surprised that I feel this way. He created me, and it's
He
okay
did.
for me to be me.
He did. And most of our gifts are double-edged swords.
Oh, yes.
We have to plan out our salvation with fear and trembling. But he made me an opinionated person. He made me an observant person. He made me a nurturer, a fixer. He made me a communicator, because Lord knows I got a lot to say and I got a lot of words to get out, but people seem to want to listen to them.
Sure.
And I've had several people tell me that, I have a way of getting a message through to them, a message they maybe have heard from their parents or from their other friends, but it sounded different coming from me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I think the Lord uses us as conduits
I believe that.
to reach people. And if we're open to doing that, I don't think conversations are random, and I probably have church 6 or 7 times a week. I haven't been in a church house in a really long time.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I'll go, when I want to, when I feel led to, nothing against it. But this is church.
Absolutely.
This is church. People congregating together, of a uniform mind, to love and learn more about the Lord. And I think that 1, we have to accept and love ourselves. And then 2, we have to accept and love and be forgiving of other people.
Absolutely.
I quit listening to Bookface for a while. That's what I call it. Because I was beginning to change my opinion about some people that I had really cared for and admired. Not that I didn't still love them, but my opinion about them was starting to change. And then I realized that COVID, this pandemic, this current political climate, there's so many areas where we're in disagreement with each other and, standing on different sides of a cause or of a thought. We are not prepared to handle this.
No.
And it's not just us. It's not just this state or this country. It's the world.
Right.
And never before has the world shared in this kind of stress.
Oh, yes.
And displacement. And I don't think it's right to hold people accountable for responding to a situation like this with less than perfection.
Sure.
Because everybody's in a different place of healing, a different place of hurt, a different place of depression or managing their life. Some people have been devastated by this pandemic financially. Some people have prospered. So there's not a uniform way to respond to all this.
Oh, I can totally agree. And that's one of the things I just keep saying is, we have got to get back to being respectful to one another, because that is one of the things that I know I grew up, even in, the dysfunctional family that I had, we were taught to respect one another. And I just think that's incredibly important. No matter what journey someone is on, it is our duty to be respectful of one another, even if we don't agree. You can still love one another and, be in, have friendships with people and get along with people and, do life with others that don't agree with everything. I'm sure you and I don't agree on everything.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I admire you as an intelligent person, and we can continue to disagree about something, but I would appreciate the fact that you might make me think.
Sure.
Because it's either going to change my mind or it's going to affirm what I already believe.
Sure.
And that's okay. I mean, when did we lose our spirit of entrepreneurship? When did we lose our desire to be better, to create, to invent, to move forward? We've become so complacent that we would rather be given a direction and not have to work for it than to work and plot our own course.
Absolutely. I think it's very obvious. It should be obvious to anybody watching this why she and I have such a good friendship, and how we just come together and have such good conversations. And everything that we're talking about is at the root of a lot of people's depression right now, because I know that my mental health has suffered greatly over the last few months. And I woke up one day and said, you know what, I've got to get back to plotting my course. I have got to get back to doing what God expected me to do. which is to help people, empower people, and help people to see what it is that they're really supposed to be doing and find their joy and all those things. So ultimately, that is why we decided to do a video together about depression. So I wanted to ask you, what happened that caused you to say, you know what, I'm going to deal with this depression? Did something particular occur? Did you wake up and have an epiphany that said, whoa, wait a minute, like I'm not going about this the right way. I can be happy. What do you, is there a time that you can pinpoint that was kind of your awakening?
Well, my story's a very long story. But I got to a point where, wow, I don't even know where to start. I'm going back through my life like it's a Rolodex and thinking, where did that happen? I think happiness snuck up on me. But I've been very aware for quite some time now of my mortality, and that there are many more days behind me than there probably are ahead of me.
Sure.
And having a closer walk with the Lord, making him a focal point in my life, and trying to cast off, everything that wasn't just me and him.
Sure.
I mean, no disrespect, but I don't need to care about what you think.
Sure.
Unless the Lord affirms to me that that's his truth for me.
Okay.
Not that you can't think what you want to, and I might not be interested to hear it, but I can't live my life by your convictions. They may not be applicable to me. So I really had to go find God.
Okay.
Not my mother's God, not my great-grandmother's God. But I had to find my relationship with the Lord. So I know the difference when it's his voice, and I know what he's telling me to do. And I really felt like God was saying, you've known for some time what it is you're supposed to do, so quit pretending like you don't, and knock the dust off and let's get it done.
Sure.
And the things that I was occupying myself with, the things that I was busying myself with, started to lose joy for me. I started to feel the anointing lifting off some things that I was doing. I started feeling some grace over things that I had felt obligated to, and them being lifted off me. And God just started moving things out of the way and lining things up into place. And to be honest, for someone who had always felt unnecessary and without purpose, to have the creator of the universe say, I've got a job for you. I've got a job for you. And looking back, everything that I've been through, even when I was out there, living outside of his will, has prepared me for this. My mistakes are things that I hope the sharing will help other people. They've helped me. They've helped grow me. And I think that just realizing that I'm responsible for me.
Sure.
I'm responsible for what I do with my day. I'm responsible for how I live my life. I'm responsible for how I feel about things. And I could choose to, wallow around in the mud hole. And a lot of people do. And I have a saying I say to my friends, I don't care. If you're in a mud hole, I don't care to get dirty pulling you out, but I'm not going to sit down there with you.
Sure.
And
I love those Anita-isms.
But you walk around in the same old mud hole, and there's some comfort in that. But it's fake, it's false.
Sure.
So yeah, I think I accepted the purpose that God had for me, and I realized it's nothing to do about me. It's nothing about my worthiness. It's all about Him. And so I guess when I started putting my mind on kingdom things and not letting the past and other people's perceptions and my perceptions of other people control how I felt about my life.
Sure. Well, one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to come and have this discussion with you, because in your writings to me, you sent me your process, your daily process for staving off depression. I want you to talk about your daily journey of dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. It's not something she does once a month and forget about it. It's something that she does every single day. She's very disciplined. She's very intentional, but in a good way. Typically, we look at discipline like, ugh, that sounds so hard. I think for her, it's a beautiful journey. So I'm going to let her share what she does on a day-to-day basis.
Well, keep in mind, if you're looking at the grassroots of this thing for me, it was that I didn't value my life. I didn't see the purpose in it. I've never felt, unworthy. I don't know how people might interpret that, because I worked hard, and so I felt like I deserved, things I had because I worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I won something, I'd give it away.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand completely.
And I didn't love me. I love on the world, but not me.
Sure.
And women are terrible to do that anyway, to take care of everyone and neglect their own self, their own health. Mm-hmm. And I think I took that to the next degree as a human being. Everything and everybody was more important than I was. And so my ritual is to love on me.
Okay.
And every morning, I have to do 2 things that are just for me. And they don't have to be the same things. It may be taking time to go outside with my cup of coffee and listen to the birds while I drink it that morning. Just take a minute and calm down, and don't worry about whether I brush my hair and my teeth or, the computer's turned on. That's me and my cup of coffee. Sure. It might be to go outside and play with my dogs.
Sure.
It might be to take the time, to do a quick facial.
Sure.
I never was one of those girls who, I don't know what my best side is.
Mm-hmm.
I never took selfies, and, I never did spend a lot of time, making sure I didn't get wrinkles or crow's feet, because that wasn't necessary. I didn't require that. I wasn't that important.
Right.
And so for me, that may sound mundane. And some of you may do that every day, every night, but I didn't.
Sure.
And so just taking time to put a little bit of preventive maintenance in the old bod here, to meditate,
Sure.
If I'm super busy, I'll tell Alexa to play one of my favorite songs while I'm getting ready. And she knows what they are now. So I'll say, Alexa, play my morning song. I hope she don't hear me and kick in. But I love that song by Fernando Ortega called This Good Day.
Yes.
Have you heard that?
I think I have.
It's an amazing song to start your day too. And then there's another song by Bethel. And it's called, I always want to call it the wrong thing. It's called, I'll come back to that. It's a really good song, but it talks about being in over your head, but that's okay because that's where God wants you to be.
Sure.
And that's where I want to be. If me and God are going to take this journey together, I want to be in over my head.
Sure.
I want to be out there, and 54, 56 is a little late in life to come to that conclusion. But with what time I have left, I want to do something magnanimous.
Sure.
With my life.
Sure.
And I still want to help people and do for people. But I realize now that I don't have to do that to the detriment of myself.
Sure.
God not only blesses through you, but He blesses to you.
Yes.
And it's okay to have.
Yeah.
It's okay to have. And I got a little put off, for a while with those prosperity preachers and things. But I don't think God wants us destitute. I don't think He wants us focused on material things. He wants us focused on Him.
Sure.
And then He blesses us according, to His will, for His purpose for our life. And so my routine is to be kind to myself.
Every day.
2 things.
Every day.
Big, small. Sometimes I don't have a meeting until 10 o'clock, and I might decide that I'm going to go out and swim in the pool, and do my meditation outside for a minute.
Sure.
Or I might decide that I have been craving an ice cream sandwich for way too long, and so I'm running to the dollar store. It depends on what time I've got.
Sure.
Sometimes it's stopping when you're already 5 minutes late and putting lotion on your legs.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things I wouldn't have done for myself before because I wasn't worth that.
Sure. Well, let me ask you one last question. I think that we talked longer than we intended, but we always do this. That's why we're such good girlfriends. one last question. If there's any advice you would like to share with anybody watching this about their battle with depression, loving their self, any of those things, is there one thing you would like to say to them?
This is so funny. I have this really close group of girlfriends. We call ourselves the Yaw-Yaws. And they make fun of me. They say I start almost all my sentences with, "Let me tell you what you need to do," or "Here's what I do," or "Here, let me tell you what we got to do here." And so apparently, and I'm not bossy; it's leadership skills. Okay. But when you say giving people advice about depression and what to do about loving themselves, well, loving themselves, I think it's going to be hard to accomplish without relationship with the Lord.
Sure.
Because you're already up against the enemy. You're already swimming upstream. And so I think you have to have the armor of God. I think you have to pray for his favor.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to pray for his guidance and direction. And then I think you have to allow yourself to love yourself and forgive yourself and other people for things in your life that are less than what you wanted them to be.
Sure.
And, this sounds crazy, but I started to pray a prayer of thankfulness. Lord, thank you for sparing me from all the things and all the people that I thought I wanted that you told me no to.
Yes.
And thank you for keeping me safe all those times when my life choices could have taken me from this planet.
Sure.
And thank you for that big old mistake I made, because it revealed some things in me I needed to change. And, it reveals some things in my friendships that I know there's no place for in my life now. And I think you have to thank God for the mistakes.
I love it.
And when you start to be thankful for the mistakes and you can admit you had them,
sure,
then you can get past them and learn from them and grow from them and hopefully maybe help somebody else with them.
I love that. I do. So we're going to get ready to close up here. I hope that this touches you in a way that just her short message, her short writings, touched me. I knew that this was something that was terribly needed right now. So I hope that you get the value from this. If you have any questions, or if you just want to talk about something that we have discussed here in the video, you know how to find me. Camille Stone on Facebook. You can message me or you can email me at empower@camillestone.org. Again, this is Anita Stewart, my best good friend. Love you guys.
Thank you.